while we're talking about bass, you're one of the few guys around who's just universally accepted as a successful doubler. It's really not an easy thing to do.
I'm very honored by that.
I think it's well deserved.
Great electric bass players out there.
There are, but those.
I still get a bad complex playing electric.
Wow.
I got to drink before I play the electric bass.
That's interesting.
I mean, not in my own house, but
right. But out on stage, yeah.
Well, because I felt like you asked earlier if I ever felt like I'd been typecast.
Yep.
And so throughout most of the 90s and early 2000s, it's like, oh, the jazz guy's playing electric now.
Okay. Yeah.
So it could have been my own paranoia, but I always felt like there were like judgment calls even before I even played a note.
Right.
It was like, oh, you play electric? Oh, I didn't know that. And so, I guess at this point that doesn't really happen much anymore, but every once in a while I still get the, hey, I didn't know you played electric,
Back in the day, how did you deal with that mentally? Where did you put it?
It's a good question. I don't really know where I put it. Like in the early days, like when I first moved to New York and I started playing with Freddie Hubbard, I was doubling, because when Freddie Hubbard would want to play his hit songs like Red Clay or First Light, I would play electric bass. Right. And he would always give me like a long feature too on Red Clay. So in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, well, obviously most of the audience has now seen me play both basses. This shouldn't be so bizarre. And then I started playing with Joshua Redman a couple of years after that. And
doubling with him too.
Yeah. And so by the late 90s when I still got the, oh, you play electric? Oh, I had no idea. I don't know, maybe part of it was reactionary, but also part of it was just kind of naturally where I wanted to go. And that was in 1998 when I made my third album called A Family Affair, which George Duke produced. And pretty much, that's sort of beyond fusion. Like half of that album is a straight up R&B album.
Right.
And I'm playing electric. I'm playing fretless, I'm playing fretted, and I'm playing acoustic. And that record had a delayed effect on people.
How so?
Well, because it took almost 6 or 7 years before I would hear people say things like, "Oh man, that Family Affair album really took me out." Like that was deep, I was like, okay, wow, I'm glad somebody really, I'm glad it touched somebody. I think when it really started to change and like the real breakthrough in terms of playing electric is when Questlove, Uri Kane, and I collaborated on the Philadelphia Experiment.
Okay, yeah.
That one pretty much like, okay, yeah, you do play electric.
Now you're the guy, right? Yeah.
And I followed that up with like a couple of years later, maybe 5 years later, I made a 3-disc CD called Live at Tonic. So between Family Affair, the Philadelphia Experiment, and Live at Tonic, that was kind of like, okay, yeah, you do play electric bass.
And the end result, was there a feeling of pride there? I finally convinced people, or was it like, well you guys finally caught up?
Until I hear like Mac Garrison and Oteil Burbridge and all these great bass players, and I'm like, nah, I don't play electric bass.
Cool.
Hadrian Farad. First time I heard Hadrian, I was just like, you know what? I'm not playing that anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot to live up to. But as you said, as you sort of intimated before, if you spend too much time comparing yourself to everybody else, it's sort of a psych out a little bit. You got to go your own way. Which...
Yeah, I realized that to a certain extent that I have a language that I'm always trying to build my language. I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to gather more information. But I have a thing that has worked for me most of my career. And as long as I do that, as long as that's at the core of what I do, I don't really get hang-ups playing electric bass anymore, And I think I do it, the more often I do it, the easier it gets, because I think there was a while there, because in all of my working bands, I didn't really play much electric bass. But now, over the last couple of years, I've been playing in this this group called a Christian McBride Situation, and that band is it's literally like 50-50. You know,
Okay.
I play acoustic one song, electric next song, and I'm switching back and forth through the whole set. Touring with that group and doing a lot of MD gigs in New York and LA where I'm doubling a lot. I don't get so much of a complex anymore.